Alrighty then, so what do you come? So, I just want to clear up a few things, and basically here's the deal. Here's the universal truth on what I call the Vata Vegans, and why they're completely moronic, don't have a brain, because they don't have a functioning nervous system, and completely uncontrollable, out of their own control. And here's why. And by the way, if you don't believe it, best to know what a belief is. It's still a thought pattern. It's a nervous system. Therefore, it's a section in the nervous system that is cut off from the rest of the brain. In other words, oneness in the three aspects of the nervous system. Central, left and right, masculine and feminine sense of the nervous system, which is essentially exactly how a three-phase motor works. So if you know how a three-phase motor works, instantly you know how a nervous system works. Cool. Alright, so here's the Vata body type. It's the natural imbalances that they possess, and of course there's a little mind, which is completely disconnected, which they call the ego. They're demonizing their own mind. This is not helpful. It's very negative. It's very low vibrational, and it's terrible. So stop doing it. So if we have a belief system here, and one here, and one here, and one here, that are in the power centers of the body and creating their own environment, that the brain is completely disconnected, because very few people have got a functioning thyroid, let alone eyes, third eye, where thought begins and receives from the gut. So the natural imbalances of the Vata body type, which is a very thin body, they're unable to hold muscle, right? Simple. Unless they eat muscle, like red meat. Duh. Simple. But their natural imbalances are the thyroid, but in particular the adrenals and the kidneys, which are obviously in the back. I'm just showing you here. So, because all of the energy is focused here in the nervous and immune system, any conductivity system, chakras included, or endocrine glands. Boom, boom. So, all the energy is focused here, then you'll notice that down below, there's no connection to the brain, no immune system, no nothing, no recognition that it's even there. So what goes on down here is a complete mystery. Therefore, that is an environment that is incredibly toxic, because the thyroid doesn't recognize the metabolism that's there, and the kidneys have zero power to be able to recognize anything, let alone take on things like heavy metals, parasites, fungus, mucus, plaque, biofilms. All these things that these people are completely unaware of. Here's why. They're incredibly narrow-minded. They're only here. Because the 90% available above the limbic system, which is symbolized by the crown of thorns in the Jesus story, and any crown in any symbolism of any story or movie, or Sahasrara, crown chakra, this part is the emotional center. And if we have very poor kidney and therefore organ function that doesn't recognize what's down below, so it can't take it on, so it's completely underpowered. They're working at a maximum of 5%, because the brain's not working with them, and everything underneath them is useless. So it's kind of like being in middle management with bums that don't turn up to work. It's a cool day. Oh, but they think they're busy. That's the funny part, because their adrenals are flying, so they have to buzz around like a butterfly or a bee, but not actually get anything done. Because if you don't have anything from the kidneys down, then you don't have a solar plexus, you don't have a subconscious mind that's connected to the conscious mind, let alone the body, and it's flying around all over the place with a bucket load of heavy metals, fungus, parasites, and mucus, because the body can't take it on. So they are still using less than 5% body power. Less than 5% of the brain, because the brain is the receptionist for the entire nervous system. And if you've only got a nervous system, you've got a capacity, let alone the capacity of 5% of operation, let alone an expansive feeling in amongst the body in that environment of 5%. What, 5% of 5%? What, 0.2 or something? That's the quality of the body. And this is why these people age incredibly fast, especially after the 2 to 3 year period, because they have no minerals in their body, and because they can't rebuild their body. So they're constantly building more toxicity, which is the cause of death. Because the environment is too toxic, the nervous system, which is already cut off and only operating here, just goes zit, 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 this is off, this is off. That means no personal power, no masculinity, no testosterone. estrogen dominant because of the environment there, especially in the Western world, where the Western body is completely malnourished. The human body's not meant to die before 60 and have cancer at 70%, and obesity rates at 60 to 70%. Obesity is complete toxicity. And you'll notice that in particular, the vegans who are, by the way, completely anemic, that's why they can't hold muscle. They can't have any mineral and bone density. These two things that are already big imbalances in the Vata body. So they've never actually felt strong and powerful and got anything done. So whenever those things that are going to come to them, that are going to provide strength, power and get it done, bottom three chakras, they push it away. Why? Because they're too busy flying and buzzing around. Because the Vata body type is inevitably linked with tens of thousands of viruses in the large and small intestine. Yeah, per decade of life. And the person is eating just like raw foods, for instance, or a vegan diet, nothing warm and cooked to actually hold on to. These things just flow straight through. Guess what? There's no mineral absorption because the adrenals are flying and the kidneys are not working. And there's no absorption in the small intestine. No, nothing in the large intestine, and all that's just full of viruses, mucus plaque and toxins because the body doesn't have the thyroid and the kidneys and anything else working to get it done. So this makes their perspective in their nervous system, in their body, very narrow-minded because they do not have enough energy or connection in their nervous system or immune system to the outskirts of the body. This is why these parts of the body are flabby and they don't have any muscle. Get some muscle. Because why? Because muscle has muscle tone. It has nervous system and a lot of immune system functions in there to provide more conductivity, to get the toxins out, to expand the nervous system. Because if you have to have a nervous system to expand it. But most people are constantly contracting it by their practices with the lack of minerals and no absorption. So guess what? When the nervous system and all the conductivity systems cut off up the body, they die. They have a heart attack by the time they get to here. Yeah, great. Sounds good, doesn't it now? Guess what? We haven't finished yet. I haven't finished downloading. So guess what? You'll see, in particular in skinny men who have a big massive bald patch here, guess what happens in the fungal microbiome? Because they have no kidneys, they have no spleen because they're iron and mineral deficient, so that means their spleen is completely offline and completely eaten by their fungus. The signs for fungus is dots, moles. You'll see that I've got moles here and here along the spleen and liver meridian line. It's not a lot now because I've funked them up. And as a result, I got brain function back. Funny that. You get your nervous system back online, you get a brain. Help for that. But what you'll notice is, because a lot of times Vata people, they either have a really small nose, but they think they have a very sensitive nose. The sense of smell comes from the nose to the coccyx, goes through every single little critter or any imbalance or resistance or impedance in the nervous system nadi or meridian line from the nose to the coccyx. Guess what? If you've got tens of thousands per decade of life, there's about 40 or 50,000 viruses interrupting the signals to get the sense of smell to connection to Mother Nature. Therefore, they cannot use with integrity anything discussing Mother Nature because they're not connected to it. They can't smell it. They don't have a spleen, which is the maternal side because it's completely eaten by the fungus. Signs for fungus in the heart. You'll notice moles here. When the moles start to go up and over the shoulders and out into the skin of the arms and into the brain, moles around here, guess what? That fungus is now in control of the nervous system. Yeah, guess what? The fungus is controlling the person's thoughts. It's subconscious because the bodily template, or the body, is the subconscious and the brain's not connected to it. It doesn't know anything about itself at all because it's operating at less than 5% of 5%. Seems simple, really? So, if you see people who have hair grown out their ears, that's a sign of fungus. You get hair grown out of a mole, right? So if a person has a crown up here with dots of fungus and moles up here, you can see they are in totally a sheeple-controlled robot with the frequencies in their transmission tower on their crown. but because they're disconnected from their emotional sense of self in the limbic system and completely in the lower part of their brain, which means their subconscious focus is in the lowest part of the body, in the vagus nerve, then guess what? This person is a frequency-controlled robot zombie. They think and do exactly the same as the people in society in the Matrix, but they think they're disconnected from them because they're disconnected from the sides of their body, because their bodily focus is here, this tiny amount, because everything else is not working. So when something doesn't work, it's impractical to keep using it. You're burning it. You're screwing it up. That's simple when you do any project, right? Gets too hard, you just go, no, it's not working. Guess what? If their body is not working, they're going to think every project is too hard. Can't get anything done. Can't focus. You'll also notice that people, especially the raw vegans, you'll notice that their eyes go like a lizard or a snake. It is controlling their optic nerve. So where's the optic nerve? Up to the brain, but also down to the solar plexus. Yeah. Has to go in the vagus nerve, so it goes all the way down to the whole body. How would they know who they are? It's possible. There you go. That's just the start. You'll also notice that people who do, especially the raw vegan thing, that they end up with a spine. You notice that they can't control their own spine because it's controlled by the viruses mainly, but the parasites, fungus, and mucus. So 95% of their body is operated by a non-human entity. Yeah, it's one of these are the most intelligent organisms on the planet. The only reason I can get this information and consciousness is because I remove them from myself. Integrity, right? You do it in the body, otherwise you're just playing games in your head. And guess what? If your head's disconnected and working at 0.2%, not real reliable, is it? How can that be possible? Especially when this is the consciousness generator through the whole body, and that's where the frequency of the transmission tower, like a Tesla tower, is tuned into. So they just tune into the frequencies of the matrix at the lowest vibration. And you'll notice that their focus, their subconscious focus, they usually don't recognize, but they might say that, oh, they have some patterns. Guess what? What are patterns? Patterns are something that's drawn a pattern over your nervous system. Seems simple, right? Yeah, what's drawn over the nervous system? The viral load, the fungal microbiome, and the, what's the other one? Mucosal membrane, but also the biofilms, right? And these are the 4 and 5 bodies, what we call 5 koshas in yogic, and it's in all the spiritual different teachings, the 5 bodies that expand outside the body. And nothing expands outside the body. The body template is simply light shining through it. So if we can see it here with this eyes, but very few people have that awake, maybe 2,000 on the planet, seriously, it's ridiculous. 2,000 awakened humans, come on. But a lot of people think they are. So how can they receive it and connect to it? They simply can't. It's ridiculous. So if we're seeing these teaching outside of us, these 5 bodies outside, well then the mirror is a reflection of what's internal. So guess what? We've got 5 bodies. These are called subtle bodies, or subtleties of the body. The only thing is very few people have the subtleties of the body awakened. So they are unable to receive the consciousness of how it works or how they work, or the lessons and the stored emotional and psychological and spiritual imbalances in the body. So unless you know how to do mineral balancing, then you don't know how to do it. And unless you've got a third eye and a crown awakened, this information would not come, so you wouldn't understand it. So if you don't understand parts of this, guess what? It's standard. It happens all the time because it's a very high vibrational consciousness. So what I like to do with new information is discard the old stuff, get the new stuff in, because then I'm a high vibrational consciousness being. Pretty handy, it works well. Feel free to take it on. So if I don't understand it, and I run it through my filters, which are minimal now, but if someone runs it through dirty chakras and operating at less than 2% or 5%, well then guess what? They don't have reliable subconscious filters to send messages to the brain. So how can they interpret any information? It's quite simply impossible. Yeah. Because you need to know, you need to think like an electrician. How does the nervous system and circuitry work? Well, that's the consciousness available in that particular part of the bodily template. So it's like drawing a stencil or a pattern on it. If we've got patterns over the top of it, especially in the gut and the lower part of the body and the outsides, then We've just got 5 bodies over the top of our soul and our real self. And they're all the imbalances and the toxins and all the different things that we put in our body. And you can work with me on this one. After 5 years of disciplined daily detoxification, there's still a bucket load of stuff still in the body. It's ridiculous how much it really is. I'm still learning and growing on that every day. So people who are constantly putting more toxins in and you're completely unaware of that they're there because they don't have enough iodine or any liver or power, and they haven't cleaned their colon, of which an environment that is simply a worm farm foundation for almost everybody, unless they've colon cleansed and done it significantly amount and repeatedly, because there's just so much stuff in there. Really is. We call it samskaras in yoga and Ayurveda, but in the body it's all these different bodies. So the way I describe that is, imagine that from every endocrine gland or chakra there's a spider web, and that spider web is cast out into your energy field, and this is how you co-create your life. Everything works through the human body, and how the template is the condition of it. So this makes mineral balance, organ balance, gut health of incredible importance, because this is the way you manage your minerals in your body's nervous system, and immune systems, and the circuitry to operate efficiently. So if a person doesn't have magnesium, which requires every day, people who know don't mess around with magnesium, they put more in every day. Fresh coconuts are good for that, but you need a supplement. So you don't have enough circuitry to expand the nervous system, let alone for the less than 5% to work efficiently anyway. So it will continually shut off if the body doesn't have enough minerals. And with a just significantly diseased and decrepit and already malnourished Western body, a Vata vegan are the most toxic people on the planet. They just don't see it because they don't have enough mucus. They don't have any mucus in their body. So all of the mucus, because they don't eat fats and oils, because look at them, they don't move. That's why they have creaky joints. They're like a scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. It's ridiculous. They think they're doing great and you can't even move. Can't even hold a pose. Like you'll see, I can't even really do it, but if you invert your elbows when you're doing any of the Vata favorite imbalanced yoga style, that is usually anything with the word flow in it. Vinyasa flow is the worst to completely imbalance and destroy these people's joints, because they cannot hold their own weight. They cannot. They think they can, but if you've got no structure, because you don't have a spine and it's completely controlled by tens of thousands of viruses, you're not actually connected to the brain, to the body, to know that you're screwing up your body by imbalancing it further, by moving in cold and windy ways and eating cold, windy foods that are still high on the tree. Guess what? In order to balance that, as above, so below, you need to nourish the bottom and get as maximum minerals in the gut and in the intestines as possible, especially when there's tens of thousands of viruses in those intestines, which is the standard imbalance for every single Vata person on the planet. Why? I'm Pitta Vata. So I've been cleaning these tens of thousands of viruses out of my large intestine for 5 years plus. Guess what? I haven't finished. I still haven't got the tension from the large intestine and the bottom half of my body on the sacral joint and the coccyx joint. And I get 100 times more nutrition than everybody else. Because if you're not doing nutrition and cleaning out, you're not absorbing anything, completely malnourished already. If you're not eating red meat, especially for Vata people, then you're not getting any minerals, any B vitamins or iron, so your spleen and your liver are not working. So the large intestine is a complete toxic waster. Yeah, and this is the case for, well, Vata people and people with, like, it's about a third of the population, but with people with Pitta Vata as well, it's about 50%. Yeah, 50% of the population, and then don't even worry about kaphas, they're even more toxic because they don't have a connection to their body and mind because their thyroid's not working. Natural imbalance. Need to fix that. So these are natural imbalances. This is universal truth. This is how the body works. If you don't like it, change yourself. This is one of the highest vibrational consciousness information you're going to get. If it brings up your stuff, especially when I say the word parasites, virus, fungus, and biofilms and critters, because that's a depth in the body where these creatures are in your body, and then subconsciously controlling the brain through the Vata, the vagus nerve, to cause you to react emotionally. Guess what? Emotions are a fourth dimensional imbalance stored in the top of the brain here. When you get a headache, it's all in that stuff because it's viruses and parasites in the large intestine screwing you up. Right? If that environment continues to grow from sugar and dairy and shitty foods that don't have antiviral properties in them, then that shit fight, that toxic waste dump, continues to rise. Takes over the entire body until the person has stuff coming out of their head and they actually look like a worm. How many skinny people walking around who've gone to raw vegan and veganism look like a worm? Have a look around now, you'll see it. Majority. If they don't eat red meat and warm, drying foods, then, no, not warm, dry, warm and moist foods, because they need oil, they need unctuous, they need heavy and dense, because they're already high up in the tree. What happens if, see this coconut tree behind me? So if I go and water the plant, the fruit and the leaves up top, it's good, it's going to be helpful, right? But what about the roots at the bottom? That's where all the nourishment is and all the minerals. This is how the body and light works. If you need heavy, dense minerals in the body to draw in the light. This is how light works. Light workers. Do you know how light works? Do you know how a basic circuit works? You need to. It's essential information because this is what you're working with, light and circuitry and electricity or energy. Energy is the most vague term on the planet for people who can't understand it and formulate another word. Notice that? I'm sure you have. So, if we don't have the dense minerals from the body to draw up to the top of the tree to nourish the fruit and the brain, we don't have one. As above, so below. The condition of the nose is the condition of the large intestine. So you've got problems, or you think you've got sensitive smell, you haven't got sensitive smell. You've got thousands and thousands of tens of thousands of viruses along your nadi, your nervous system line to the large intestine, which grows daily because that's the environment that's being completely mismanaged and it's decomposing. Guess what? What happens if you've got a worm farm foundation of flesh-eating creatures that is eating your ass alive in all the subtleties of the body? And the large intestine has all the nervous system meridian points that go through it. So they go from the coccyx, through all the large intestine, through all the organs, every single one, over to here. So if you've got problems inside of your body, or your brain's not even connected to it, guess what? That environment is a toxic waste dump that is completely taken over by flesh-eating creatures. Yeah, what's that going to do for you? What happens to flesh-eating creatures in the bottom of a tree in the root system? Huh? It gets more creatures in there and it falls over and dies. Hang on, doesn't have a spine because it doesn't have any sap or any bark to hold it together. Nutrients, minerals. Because if you're doing veganism, you're limiting yourself to 5 to 10% of nutrients, and there's zero minerals. There's no animals, plants, minerals, and animal kingdom. So when I ask people, give yourself a rating out of 10 for your plants, minerals, and minerals, the three aspects of the Mother Nature. Plants, they reckon they're at 9 or 10. But if you don't do herbalism, guess what? You can only be at a maximum of 5. You're not doing minerals because you're not eating root vegetables, not eating meat. Guess what? Minerals, nothing. Well, animals, that's out of the question. You've written that off. Boom, you're on 5 out of 30 possibilities. That's shit. That's, what, 20%? So you've got a maximum of 20% nutrition of the nutrients and minerals available, and these are all the ones high in the tree that have no little value to you down to below anyway. So put that to 5%, just throwing out numbers, and then you're not absorbing any of it. It's just gone straight through. It therefore created an environment that's an absolute toxic waste dump. 25 minutes to prove my point, yeah. If first of all, if you can't listen to the whole thing, you're critical of cognitive dissonance subconsciously that you're not aware of. If you got triggered, if you got emotions, you've got emotional triggers and gunk in the nervous system, in the organs. Why? Because there's a worm farm foundation there and they don't want the environment to change. So they'll just send a message to the brain to say, stuff off, that's wrong. Guess what? Right and wrong's duality, universal truth, awaken the crown, and you'll get a brain and you might start figuring stuff out and be a decent quality human. Because 43% of an individual is inhuman because of their lack of awareness of gut health. 43%. And that with an environment that is growing more toxicity every day, because they're not getting any nutrition, and what they are putting in is the wrong one, is the light, and it's not even absorbed anyway. Complete wasteland. The image that comes to mind is a worm, but you know, those starving kids in Africa they used to put on TV. That's what they end up looking like. And they call themselves spiritual and healers and all this. I think they're great. Don't kid yourself. Walking worm. So, have you figured it out yet? Well, now that the magician has removed the illusion for you, or the delusion, you can remove your own delusions. Might want to make some better choices. Have a look at the Ayurveda Vata body type, diet, nutrition strategy. So Vata, V-A-T-A, Ayurveda, A-Y-U-R-V-E-D-A. That'll save your life, if you've listened to the end of the video. Choices, right? Subconscious choices of the critters and the subtleties of the body subconsciously that you're completely unaware of. Super cool, huh? Got the name spiritual name Charan Gyan. They don't give you the name Gyan, which means wisdom, for nothing. Seems obvious now, doesn't it? So, to greater health and spiritual development, and tell the Vata Vegans that they're morons. But they won't listen to you because they're so narrow-minded, because they can't understand anything outside of here. Oh, by the way, meats and root vegetables and animal products are huge in maximum amount of minerals. But not just that, they build glutathione, or the raw materials for glutathione in the body. Glutathione is the master antioxidant produced by the liver to detoxify. If the body doesn't have any glutathione, it does not detoxify. It creates an environment that is completely a toxic wasteland, and will continue to do that subconsciously in the person's body their mind is not aware of, because they're controlled by these things. Less than 2% by brain function. Guess what? This is how the body works. Sucks. Guess what? This is the environment we live in. Best to fix it, right? My suggestion, send me a message and do it. Am I going to put together a solution for the Vata Vegans, or just avoid them? They don't seem to listen, and they're so narrow-minded anyway. What's the point? They can essentially suicide and self-sabotage themselves to death. Oh, have you noticed that they use the word self-sabotage and death and suicide a lot? Guess what? They're critters in your large intestine. Yeah, because it's a low vibrational word choice, a low vibrational density. Figured it out yet? Yeah.